Hi, I'm Jeff from Chimp Woodshop, and today we're talking about my new table saw. This is Grizzly's new G0833P hybrid table saw. It's 2 horsepower, cabinet, trunnions are mounted to the cabinet. Now I haven't had time to use it much because I just got it, so it's just going to be kind of a quick first look. The other reason I haven't had a chance to use it, as you can kind of tell, I just moved into the shop. We moved from Chicago to Georgia, so we're still getting it built out. Now this is my very first cabinet type saw, so I'm not sure if this is true of all of them, but I had a very hard time getting the top off, but it was my fault. After removing the 4 bolts, which were easy enough, I still could not get the top off. I had to go look at the schematics. I discovered there are 2 tiny little set screws in opposite corners, and once you remove those, the top comes right off. Assembly was very straightforward. The instructions are well written and easy to follow. With the top attached to the wings, one of them was slightly higher on the end. So checking with a level, there was a small gap in the middle of the table. However, this is covered in the instructions with the direction to shim the top half of the connection joint with masking tape. The rails are a heavy, solid iron and add extra heft to the saw, which is nice. There are a couple extra bolt holes where you could attach either some wood or make a router table insert into the open area to the right of the saw. The fence on this saw is not the Beesmeyer clone that I've seen on a lot of these types of saws, but rather a clone of the Delta Unifence from what I've read online. The advantage of this fence is it can be used in the standard position, or when ripping thin stock, you can turn it onto its side and make it easier to handle those smaller, thin pieces. The blade included from Grizzly is a 10-inch 40-tooth carbide tip saw blade. It's a solid general purpose blade, but if you're doing any fancy cuts, you'll probably want to upgrade it. One note, while installing the blade, there is an arbor lockout button. So you can press that when loosening or tightening the nut to the blade guard. This is the guard housing. The hose connects up top. Both sides rotate up smoothly, and there's a front guard that moves up and 2 claws at the rear. The claws can be fixed up out of the way if you don't want them scratching your workpiece, or just don't like them. Behind the guard is a riving knife, and the whole housing and riving knives move up and down with the blade as the blade moves up and down. Also included is a riving knife that moves up and down with the blade, like most riving knives. Both the riving knife and the blade guard connect to the same mount point behind the blade. You roll this little lock pin out of the way, pull the riving knife out, and then set it back in. Then unlock the locking pin, give it a little tug to make sure it's locked in place. Grizzly recommends only using this with non-through cuts or when the guard will get in the way, but I know a lot of people leave it in all the time and it works well. As I have such a small shop, I need to be able to reposition as many things as possible. Grizzly calls this their bear crawl heavy-duty mobile base. Assembly was pretty simple. I put the base on when the top was actually still off to make it a lot easier to assemble and pick up. It's a heavy cast iron and the wheels are very solid and spin smoothly. To lock the table, there are 2 toggle type levers that you can flip up and down with your feet and it locks steady into place. The 2 horsepower motor comes wired for 220 volts. There's a little pin that can be inserted into the start switch to ensure that it's not accidentally started. Now it would have been nice if it could be locked out from starting completely rather than just pulling this little pin out. The cabinet has a standard 4-inch dust collection port on the right side of the saw. This is also where the hose for the blade guard dust collection connects. Now I've seen some people comment online that having a hard 90-degree turn at the connection point will dramatically reduce the effectiveness of the blade dust collection on top. I felt good suction up through the hose at the top, but this is one of those things that we'll have to watch with more use. Like most table saws, there are 2 handles, one for adjusting the blade height and one for adjusting the blade angle. Both are heavy, solid metal wheels that attach easily. They have a nut that you can tighten or loosen to lock them into place. They both spin easily, but not so easily that they're going to move on you when you're trying to lock down that nut. So that's just a quick overview of the Grizzly G0833P table saw. As I said, Chimp Woodshop is still in the building stages thus far at its new home, so I haven't had too much use with the actual saw. But from assembly to a few test cuts I've done, it does feel like a very solid, well-built tool that'll serve me well in the long run. I'm sure though, once I start building and doing some other things with the saw, I'll actually have to do some fine-tuning with the tabletop or the fence. But everything on the saw is very easily adjustable, so it shouldn't be a problem. Once the shop is a little further along the way and I can start actually making some projects and doing things, I'll have a lot more updates on it, and I'm sure the saw itself will be featured in a lot of upcoming videos and projects. I'm Jeff, this is Chimp Woodshop coming along, and this is the Grizzly G0833P table saw. Thanks for watching.